Okay. Can everybody see that? Okay, can you guys see that there?
Yes, yep, we can see it.
All right, perfect. I don't share my screen very often at all, so I appreciate that. So yeah, we're gonna go through and just kind of talk about what it's like living on campus, and then we're gonna dive into what it's like to dine on campus, and just all of those things. So if you do have technical support, or if you're having trouble connecting to audio, you can call these numbers to join the webinar, if we're having any trouble there. But we want to make sure that we get your question answered, and that you know kind of a direction to go after this. So here in University Student Housing, we have 10 residence hall communities. We have 114 resident advisors, which I actually think we've added. I know we've added a couple more since at the beginning of the year. We both have full-time student staff and professional staff that live in each of our halls. We want to make sure that you're supported here as a resident here at Montana State. All of our arrays live on almost every floor in our residence halls, and really what they do in their role is we want to make sure that they're your first resource. They're going to plan and promote events for you here on campus, but also connect you to other resources that you may not be aware of, and just make sure that you're cared for all around. We have about 4,800 on-campus residents here on campus. There is that first year live-on requirement, which goes through both fall semester and spring semester. We're going to talk about a little bit about culinary services. We have two dining halls here on campus. We have Miller Dining Commons and Rendezvous Dining Pavilion here on campus. They're both open, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7:30, and then they alternate on the weekend. But as you can kind of see in those pictures, there's what we call concepts, basically different restaurants throughout those dining facilities. You can have that free consultation with a registered dietitian to accommodate anything. One of our campus partners in culinary, she always talks about how because we do so much locally sourced ingredients from farm to campus or just around Montana, that one in every third bite is a little taste of Montana. So we're really big on supporting our local communities. And in my opinion, I think our dining facilities are world class. Right now, actually, upstairs, they're doing an Oktoberfest night. So they do a lot of special dinners too. Here's a couple different meal plan options that we offer. We do have the full 7-day, 5-day meal plans. Silver and gold access Sunday through Sunday, and then the 5-day meal plan is a Monday through Friday. But both you get what's called Cat Cash, which is $150, which can be used at some other various locations across campus. We have other coffee shops on campus, in our student union building, some different options there that can be counted towards some just additional meals throughout campus. Safety and security on our halls. We restrict access to our halls 24/7. It's important that we know who's coming in and out of our halls. We require a CAT card, which is your student ID card. You have to swipe into every building that you go into. And if you don't live in that building, you're not going to have access to that building. We want to make sure that the students that are going into that building are the students that live there. Guests can be accompanied, or you can bring guests into the building, but they must be accompanied by a resident of that building at all times. We do have 24/7 staff on call in each building, but between our RAs, we have desk clerks at our front desk, and then Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. to 5, we also have a professional staff at the front desk. And again, we do have a professional live-in staff member in each of our halls too. Between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., all guests must check in formally at the front desk. And then we do limit to a number of 6 to a room at a given time. So that's just a little bit about the safety and security measures that we take to make sure that our students are well taken care of. Talking a little bit about our amenities in each hall. In our hall communities, most of them have kitchens, quiet study lounges, large social areas. We have bike racks outside each building, high-speed internet, wireless internet throughout the halls, 24/7 front desk coverage, like I already talked about. Also, that their mail service is right within the hall. They go to the front desk, and that's where they can pick up all of their mail. And, they don't have to go anywhere to do that. There's the CAT card operated laundry, which again, you can use that CAT cash for, which basically turns your card into a debit card, for some of those services right on campus. And then, some of our student involvement activities. RRAs are putting on events. We have residence hall council or hall council that each building has, and they're going to an opportunity for students to get involved and plan some of the events that happen in each hall, and kind of have some say in the direction that the events that are being put on within a hall. Okay, so here's some of the living options here on campus. We have single gender buildings, co-ed buildings and floors, mixed gender housing, living learning communities, or LLCs, which we'll get into a little bit more of that. We have sophomore and above or 21 plus housing, as we're seeing a lot more students that want to stay on campus. Instead of, I think a lot of them are just saying the convenience that comes with living on campus, and we're seeing a rise in that. But then we also have some transfer student options as well. So let's go ahead and dive into those different living options. So first, we're going to start with our biggest building on campus. It's North Hedges, 650 students. It's a co-ed building and floors, community bathrooms. One of the great things about our Hedges buildings is that they're connected to Miller Dining Hall. So when it does get real cold, you don't have to go outside. But there's a grand piano, a solarium with a fireplace in the main lobby. This building also houses our ResNet office, which is basically our help desk for residents, open 6 days a week, free software consultations, all those things, anything, IT related, help our students with. And again, that's North Hedges. And you can kind of see the layout of the room, that very traditional style residence hall room. Going over to basically the twin sister of North Hedges and South Hedges, a little bit less students and 650 students, but the layout's pretty similar, co-ed floors, community bathrooms, also connected to Miller Dining Hall just on the other side. But then this is when we get into some of our LLCs. Our live and learning communities are basically areas that students say that have this common interest, right? Some are going to be a little bit more academically focused. Some are going to be maybe more well-being focused. So we have business honors, creative arts, sense of place, and emerging leaders on this floor. And again, that there's just going to be more intentional programming around those areas, around those areas of interest for those students that want to opt into a live and learning environment like that. South Hedges also has a ski wax room and a weight room. As we know, those are big parts of, wanting to come to Montana State University. Going to Roski. Roski is, I would say, one of our, if not our most unique building here on campus. We have 400 students in the building. It's a co-ed building, a very unique room layout, as we call it a pod style living. As you can see in the layout, it's kind of almost a triangle shape, but in those pods, all the doors face the same direction. And really, I would say Roski has basically, or how I'd put it, a cult following. People love Roski, and I would say more oftentimes than not, would almost win our student satisfaction survey, just because it creates such memories, because it forces people to interact, as all their doors face one another. It also does have that ski wax room and game pod, but a very active and memorable hall. Going to Lankford. So this is our all-male hall on campus, 425 students. We have some LLCs there in engineering and honors. Also has a ski wax room, weight room, game room. And then also this one's right across from our other dining facility in Rendezvous. And again, this is Lankford Hall. Has one of the biggest rooms layouts on campus as well. So going over to Mullen. Mullen is part of the Johnstone Center. a wing of the Johnstone Center, 140 students, co-ed building, community bathrooms again. Also across from Rendezvous, it's the freshman wing of our Johnstone Center, but weight room, pool table, remodeled movie room, and actually the main lobby was remodeled this summer. So that is Mullen in the Johnstone Center. Now we're getting into Hapner. This is our first of two all-female halls. 300 students, female-only building. Like I said, community bathrooms. Sinks are actually in the rooms. Ski lockers, weight room, movie room, practice room. And Hapner was actually has been renovated here in the past as well. So that's our first of two all-female halls. Getting into Hannon, 300 students here. This is our other female-only building on campus. Community bathrooms. LLCs are our engineering, our ladies engineering LLC, and then also the honors LLC there. Sinks are also in the rooms there. There's the weight room, a practice room, and then floor lounges with little kitchenettes on each floor. Then we have the quads. Quads is our honors college housing. I have to be part of the honors college to live there. 130 students, 24 residents per quad. Co-ed, it is co-ed, suite style rooms. There's also sinks in the rooms, kitchen, dining, living room, laundry. All those are in each quad. And as you can kind of see there, have some really cool architecture from the outside and for our honor students. Getting into kind of coming back to our Headwaters communities, Madison Hall is 67 students. This is our mixed gendered housing, semi-private bathrooms, single room, suite style. This campus partner is our diversity and inclusion. There's our campus partner there here with the mixed gendered housing. Hey, Yellowstone, I would say is one, if not our most popular hall on campus. Our second newest building on campus, 400 students, co-ed building and floors, community and semi-private bathrooms. So we have some suite style living options there where there's 2 double rooms that are connected to a shared space, and then those 4 students share a bathroom. We have our LLC in this building, which is the Wellbeing LLC. It's LEED Gold certified. Ski lockers and covered bike storage are in Yellowstone. It also has an outdoor patio with gas grills. It's right across from our intramural field, and just really a unique building. As you can see, it's shaped like the letter Y as well. So definitely one of our most popular halls. Now we got Highlight. Highlight is our newest building on campus. 510 students. It's a co-ed building. Community, gender inclusive bathrooms throughout, single, double, and triple living options here on campus. It has a 2-story open concept lounges. You know, this is one of our building has ACs in all the public areas and hallways. And then it also has ski lockers and covered bike storage as a part of that. And then you can kind of see the different layout of each room there. And then, you know, like I said, students we're having more and more students that want to stay on campus. I think a lot of it has to do with the convenience of being on campus and all that comes with it. Our first one is Pryor and Coulter. This is the other 2 wings of our Johnstone Center. 258 students, co-ed building, single and double living options, sinks and carpet in all the rooms. And then we go over to our Julia Martin Apartments. 320 students, co-ed complexes, but traditional apartment housing, as you can see in that picture, there's a kitchen, bathroom, 2 to 3 bedroom options, but 21 plus, sophomore and above transfer student housing is our Julia Martin Apartments. And then our Gallatin and Jefferson apartments, which are the other 2 buildings in our Headwaters complex. 200 students, co-ed buildings, suite style. So again, that suite style is that connected rooms share a bathroom. And then Gallatin is LEED Gold certified as well. Something that we always recommend is we encourage students that live on campus to have that renter's insurance. Here's one of the options for you, and it's MSU's preferred vendor, but really just a way to make sure that your stuff is protected. And I know there's a lot of options there, but here's one option that you can go through that the average cost is 11, and just making sure that your stuff's taken care of. And it is highly recommended, but not required by MSU. Okay, break housing. So Thanksgiving break and spring break are built into the housing contract. Dining halls will operate on a modified or limited schedule, but you can stay for no extra cost. Winter break, however, is a little bit different. There's an additional charge for students to stay on campus during winter break. We do have students that do this. We have guests and visitors and non-students are not permitted to stay in any breaks, as we don't have the same staff requirements during those times. But halls do officially close for winter break, and services are limited. The dining halls are closed during winter break, but that you are able to stay at an additional charge during that time. We do have a lot of international students that stay during that time. Finally, the application. Application opens on October 1st at 9 a.m. We will be open on October 1st. So if you need to have questions, feel free to call University Student Housing and we can get those questions answered. It does come with that, as you fill out that application, we encourage you to get it in as soon as possible for to get that top choice here on campus. But $300 non-refundable housing prepayment, housing preference and roommate request matching on application. Online application is through the University Student Housing website. And then, like I said earlier in the video or in the presentation, that it is a year-long housing contract from August to May, and with that first year live-in requirement. Okay, and then here's our contact info for when that application comes out. University Student Housing, you can go to or email us at housing@montana.edu. The website, montana.edu/housing. There's an Instagram there. There's our phone number. And again, we'll be open on that October 1st. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, as we want to make sure we get all your questions answered as you're going through that process. So here is, oh, sorry guys. So here's just a map of campus here to kind of tell you to where things are at here. That's University Student Housing and where it's located on campus. It's right between our two Hedges buildings in the basement of Miller Dining Hall. If you're ever on campus and want to swing by, we're open 8 to 5 and can get those questions answered in person. Okay. That should do it. So let me exit out here and bring it back here. I know there were some questions popping up there, and hopefully everybody's getting those answered. Katie, is there anything else that you'd like me to add, or any other things you'd like me to address?
Yeah, do you want to go ahead and get started with the webinar here, or sorry, with the Q&A right away?
Yeah, absolutely. I know Jamie's going to kind of help me out with that. And she's, going to kind of be responding to some things, but yeah, absolutely. Let's get to it.
Perfect. Yeah. So I have a couple questions here that we had wanted to ask you, and then I also have pulled a couple of questions from the chat. So the very first question that I wanted to ask you is if there are any gender inclusive or gender neutral options when it comes to housing.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. So we do have the gender neutral options of Madison Hall. That's that mixed gender housing that they're roommates. That there's no restrictions there. Gender neutral bathrooms, all those things to meet those needs of those students.
Fantastic. Awesome. And then another question that we had was if there was specific housing floors for honors students in other places other than the quads, the honors option.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have South Hedges, we have Langford, and we have Hannon Hall to have the specific housing.
Perfect. And then another question that we had for you was the housing application opens on October 1st. A couple of people within the chat were wondering if that is on a first come, first serve basis, if you could explain how that kind of process works when it comes to that priority deadline in March.
Yeah, absolutely. I might, if it's all right, ask Jamie to hop on as well, as this is kind of her specific realm with the housing application, to maybe walk through that.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks,
Yes,
Jamie.
perfect. So we do our application processes on a first come, first served basis. So it's the date of the completed application, and your application's only considered complete when you submit the $300 prepayment.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate it.
Jamie.
Another question from the chat was, do all dorms cost the same, or is there a way that students can find out an estimate for how much their dorm room would cost anywhere on our website?
Yes, there is. There are some differences with each hall. Maybe if Jamie could help me out and maybe post the link to that within the chat, that kind of pulls up our University Student Housing page, that gives a little bit more of a breakdown of each of our halls there.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Jamie, in advance for posting that for us. Another question from the chat is, how can students match with a roommate if they are not bringing someone with them who they are already planning on rooming with?
So we're going to do some things internally. We're going to have students fill out a questionnaire that gives us, helps with compatibility, right? We're going to ask questions. How early do you like to wake up? How clean do you think you are? And what are your interests, right? How often do you get outside? I think there's one on there that's even hunting and fishing, or video games, and the list goes on, right? And we're going to do our best to make sure that you match with someone that is compatible with you, to live with throughout the year. There might be some concerns that come up, or as when we live with someone new, but we're going to make sure that your RA is there to help meet some of those needs. I also encourage you, there's a lot of groups out there, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, that get students connected together before they come, and a lot of our students meet that way, that end up finding roommates there on social media.
Awesome. Another question that we had from the chat was about ski and bike lockers on campus. Can you explain which dorm halls have ski or bike lockers and how that application process works for students?
Yeah, so a little bit of a quiz for me to make sure I remember all of them. But Yellowstone Hall has ski and bike storage. Highlight Hall has ski and bike storage. Hapner has ski storage. Jamie, am I missing any? I feel like I'm missing one more. But there is an application process with that that comes out, I believe, in early April for students to get on and apply for that. And again, that's a first come, first served basis. Not all of our halls have it, and not all of our halls have the number of ski lockers for each of our students, right? So I would say the majority of our students don't have them. If you don't get one, there is a wait list, but I don't want students to stress that there's not space for their skis within their room, right? There definitely is. I mean, Bridger Bowl, I make the joke as I meet with students, what brought you to MSU? And first thing they tell me is skiing. And I say, it sounds like we're majoring in Bridger Bowl then, right? There's places in your room to store those skis. And I always tell students too, you're not going to do much skiing first semester. I'm from Colorado. The ski slopes open up a little earlier up there or down there than they do here. And I think Bridger opens up this year, like mid-December. So, really close to the end of the first semester. And you're really, unless you're doing some, we get really good snow and you're doing a lot of hiking that first semester at the end, you really don't need your skis first semester.
Awesome. Thank you. Another question that the chat had was if students have applied to MSU and then have applied to the Honors College, when the housing applications open, even though they have not yet been accepted into the Honors College, should they still put the quads or honors housing down as their preference on that housing application?
Yes, they definitely can. And that way, when they do get accepted, they have that first preference of, being in there right when the, first come, first serve, and getting that first priority when we go to start doing placements.
Fantastic. Another question that students had was if they submit the housing application, is there a way to go in and edit it after they have already submitted it? And if so, what can they edit? Could they add on a roommate if they meet someone? What kind of things could they go in and change?
Yeah. So again, here I might ask Jamie to pop in if I don't cover everything. But with the application, they can go in and edit it, right? They can add roommates. I believe they can change their preferences in order, and again, it'll go from that first date they submitted that application. But yeah, you can go back in and if say you met a roommate on a Facebook group of incoming MSU freshmen, and you want to go add each other on that list or in that application, you can do that.
Awesome. Another question that was in the chat was just, could you possibly elaborate more on the difference between community style living and suite style living? I think a lot of people were just a little bit confused about whether community style living meant that like men and women would be sharing the same bathroom on a dorm.
Yeah, no, great question. No, we do have separate male and female bathrooms and gender inclusive bathrooms, right? But they are identified as such. Community bathrooms just mean that there's a bathroom for that floor. And for example, like in North and South Hedges, one side of the floor might be male, one of the side of the floor might be female, and having bathrooms on each side of those wings. That's community style bathrooms. Now, suite style bathrooms just means that there's rooms that share the same bathroom that is just for those rooms.
Okay, thank you. Another question was if there is any safe place on campus to store other outdoor equipment, whether that be fishing rods, maybe students don't get a ski or bike locker at their dorm. If they have a hunting firearm, are there places on campus to store those?
Yeah, so as far as the fishing poles and other outdoor equipment like that, there necessarily isn't other spaces to store those things. But we understand that a lot of people come to Montana, or our resident Montana students are big hunters and fishermen, and that they want to come experience that here in Gallatin County. We have a weapons storage down at the University Police Department that has 24/7 access, so that you can bring those firearms and to campus and have them stored safely and secured there. And that way, when you go out, it is September. I've been doing a lot of hunting myself, and you can go and get those firearms or bow and head out.
Fantastic. Another question that we had was whether or not students, freshman students, are allowed to bring their car to campus when they come in the fall.
Yeah, freshman students are allowed to bring their car to campus. There are specific lots for our students that live on campus. Again, that's another area that I would really recommend as parking, our parking spaces are limited, but there is enough parking for students that live on campus. So just making sure that when that opens up, you get in, or you might get a lot that's just a little bit further than maybe you would like, right? But again, there's going to be space for you and your vehicle on campus.
Awesome. And I know you don't work for university parking,
right.
But Do you know when those parking passes would open up to be purchased for incoming students?
Think if my memory serves me right from this last year, I think it was August 1st. And you do have to have a housing assignment in order to get that parking pass. So again, the sooner you apply for your housing, the easier it is to get that parking pass, to get that parking lot you want.
Awesome. Another question that we had was, how exactly does Cat Cash work when it goes on your CAT card, your student ID? Is that something that parents or students could load onto their CAT card? Is it automatically set based on their meal plan?
Yeah. So you're automatically going to get that $150 for or on your CAT card with that CAT Cash with your meal plan. But you can go in and add cash as you need. So you go through that and you want to add some more to that. Yeah, parents or yourself can go in and upload some to that. I always like to tell parents it gives you a little control over what students are spending their money on because they can only use it on campus, right? They can use it to some of the places in the sub, which is the Strand Union Building, basically our student union building, or with laundry and some of those things.
And as far as the meal plans go, I don't know if you can share that slide again to maybe talk about pricing
yeah.
and the difference between the 5 and 7 day plan. But students were also wondering, is it like a swipe when you go into the dining hall? Is it all you can eat that day?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I didn't mention that. Let me go back to that slide, and I'll reshare my screen here. Okay. Sec while I get back to the. Okay, can we see it again?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, it's really unique as far as our dining halls go. That with either the 5 day or 7 day meal plan, you have unlimited access to both dining halls. That it's not, like where I went to school, you got one meal for breakfast, you got one meal for lunch, and one meal for dinner. But here you can go in 7 times a day and swipe in. One big belief we have is that a lot of community building comes in with our time spent in our dining halls, right? You're going to spend most of your time in your residence hall, in the dining halls, and then in class. So the opportunities to get in there, get a bite to eat whenever you want. Both of our dining halls have it's a full service coffee bar for you in the mornings. So you can go in and get that good cup of joe and just be prepared for the day. But a lot of our students do a lot of their studying within our dining halls, so you can come and go as much as you'd like with that. I hope that answers the question, Katie.
Perfect. Thank you. Another question that we had was if dorms fill up or not. So are we ever completely at capacity on campus? Are students guaranteed housing for their very first year? If they do decide to turn in their application a little bit later for housing, will they ever just not be able to find a spot on campus?
Yeah, we are committed to making sure that our first year students will absolutely have a place to lay their head at night when they come to campus. Again, we always encourage students to get that application in as soon as possible. But as the state of Montana has that first year live-in requirement for our students, we can guarantee that there's going to be a spot for our first year students.
Amazing. I apologize. I meant to ask you this question right after the meal plans question.
Right? No, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. So how can students find the price points for those 4 different options for meal plans?
Yes, so they're on our website. Again, I think that's an area that we can make sure that we get put in the chat for our students. But I believe it's housing@montana.edu, or excuse me, montana.edu/culinary to get to that.
Perfect, thank you. Another question that we had was, is if a student opts in for a 5-day meal plan, but they want to eat on campus on the weekends just every once in a while, is it possible for them to pay cash, to use the cash that they've loaded onto their CAT card?
Yep, absolutely. Students can either pay cash or use their CAT cash on their CAT card if they choose to do that 5-day meal plan and want to eat on the weekends. Yeah, absolutely a possibility.
Amazing. And what else might CAT cash be used for within the dorms specifically, not just eating on campus?
Right. Yeah. So it's going to be your laundry. It's going to be we have not I'm thinking a convenience store, but it's what's it called when you go get a drink from a machine? I can't even think of the word.
Vending machine. Yeah.
Machine. Yeah, we have a winner. Yeah. It was just too many concussions, I guess. But your CAT cash will work on that vending machine in our halls as well.
Perfect. And just to clarify for the chat, because there's been a couple of different questions about it, you can add CAT cash onto your student's ID card or your ID card. Later on, it does not necessarily have to be with a meal plan. You can continue to add that on throughout the course of your year. Another question that we had in the chat was, how common is it that students actually stay on campus for their sophomore year or above? How many students, if you know, are continuing to live on campus?
Yeah, I don't know the exact number or exact percentages of students that we have on campus. I know, or that return to campus. I know that we have more than last year, and I think we have roughly 1,000 returning students or sophomore and above students living on campus with us right now. Yeah, so it is becoming more common. And again, we have a process of priority housing application for our returning students. And then, on top of that, all of our RAs are all returning students from sophomore to senior, as we do have those third-year RAs too. So.
Fantastic. We did have a request in the chat. Is there a possibility that you could show the slide again for the sophomore and above options for living on campus?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me.
And maybe just walk through those one more time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let me get to our sophomore option here. Okay, so yeah, here are our sophomore and above options. We have our Pryor and Coulter, which are 2 wings of the Johnstone Center. There's sinks and carpets in the room, single and double living options. Then we move to our Julia Martin Apartments, which is, again, it's traditional style apartment living right here on campus. Excuse me, which I would say is probably, one, if not our most popular options for our upper or returning sophomore and above students, because it gives them that true apartment style living and the freedom that comes with that. But you still have access to having that meal plan. You still have the convenience of being on campus, of not having to commute to campus to find parking. You're right here where all of your classes are. And then finally we have our Gallatin Hall and Jefferson Hall, which are part of our Headwaters complex, right behind North Edges. And you have 200 students in those buildings, co-ed buildings. That's where I talked about suite style, where we have rooms that share a bathroom, to kind of give a little bit more of that privacy that our sophomore and above students like.
Awesome. A lot of students were asking in the chat, Is it possible to apply for housing before you have officially decided to go to Montana State? And if that is possible and they later decide not to come to Montana State, can you explain how that withdrawal process works specifically for housing?
Yeah, I can definitely speak to housing. Let me go ahead and get back there. But you can absolutely apply to housing. I think the part there that you need to be admitted to the university, if I'm correct there from the admissions side, but applying for housing, but then you decide, you know what, I don't think MSU's for me. You can put in a cancellation, and you just don't get back that $300 deposit that you put down.
Sure. To explain that from the admissions side for
Thank you. Yeah.
everyone, it's a fully non-committal process. So submitting the housing application does not mean that you're coming to Montana State. Even accepting a scholarship and attending an orientation session does not mean that you're going to attend Montana State. We won't assume that you're coming until you're in a seat paying tuition at MSU. So if you are going to apply for housing, you don't have to be officially committed because there is no way to officially commit to Montana State. The housing application is a really fantastic way for students to let us know that they're still interested in attending MSU. But again, with that $300 non-refundable deposit, it is possible that students would be losing out on that. In order to withdraw that application, it's a really, really easy process. You can either call or email our office. We can withdraw that application for you, and it automatically updates all of our systems, including the housing application. So just to explain that a little bit further from the admissions side, because I did know the answer to that one.
Yes, perfect. I
and
think
then-
you would.
Fantastic. Yeah. So we had another question. Can you talk just a little bit about the brand new wellness center that's going to be opening on campus? If you know if that is included in a student's like tuition and fees, recreation fees, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I probably one of the buildings I'm most excited for. I get to look at out our windows every day and see the progress they make. But yes, it's absolutely included in your tuition and fees as part of that. I believe that they're open at 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Lots of opportunities or different activities that are going to be over there. I know our counseling and psychological services is going to be over there. And just a lot of other health and well-being resources are going to be out of that building, but absolutely part of your tuition and fees.
Awesome. Can you talk a little bit more about living learning communities, how a student can request to live in one of those, what the purpose of those is, and maybe where students could find a description of all of our living learning communities?
Yeah. Our live and learning communities descriptions are all online in our the university student housing page. But the purpose there of them are to help bring students together and create community over common interest. Right. Some of them are going to be more academically focused, such as engineering, business, arts and architecture are going to be some that are going to be partnered with our different colleges. Again, our honors. One, we just had a really big event in the quads, which was like an honors presents event that I believe had 120 students there to help really just dive in and breathe life into that community. And there's going to be some different opportunities with some of our different LLCs. How you opt into those is that as you're filling out the housing application, you'd select those as an option. There does come with a additional fee to create just some more programming budget, so that we can kind of those RAs and community directors can cater to those students that want to have that as another opportunity while they're here on campus. But again, we just want to create more collisions for our students to interact with one another, as we believe that's what gets students connected to campus. Is the more people that they're able to interact with and create relationships is going to help them feel a little bit more at home here on campus.
Awesome. Another question that we had within the chat was, how do students find out about their housing assignment, and when does that usually happen?
Yeah, so it's on a rolling cycle. We have a housing coordinator or a placement coordinator that goes in and assigns every single application and every single student that applies to housing. And so, with that, I know we talked about, what are the options of, or how do we look at placements? We have an individual that goes through the compatibility surveys that you filled out and places each student individually to make sure that we're doing the very best we can to make sure students are living together that hopefully are set up for success. And then you're going to get an email when that takes place, letting you know of your housing assignment and the contact info of your roommate.
Perfect. And just so everyone in the chat knows, every attendee knows, when it gets closer to move-in next spring, we will also be hosting a move-in webinar where we will answer every single question you could ever possibly have about moving into the dorms, including shipping your things before you move here, what's restricted in the dorms, how to hang things up, things like that. Another question that we had was about housing exemptions. So lots of students might live in the area or have immediate family who live in the area. Can you describe what is required in order for a student to be granted a housing exemption?
Yeah, so Jamie, I might need your help with this one. But it's a certain mile radius that the students have to live, have immediate family to be granted a housing exemption. There is a process that you can go through to request an exemption that, maybe some different circumstances that might grant one of those things. But there's a process to go through to get an exemption of that. And that can be all done in the housing portal.
Fantastic. And does that have to be done after students apply for housing on campus? Is it submitted at the same time? When typically would that happen?
Right. I would say if if you live here in Bozeman, you want to live at home, right? Go ahead and fill that out. No need to fill out the housing application if there's no need, if you're not planning on living on campus, right? But again, I would fill out the housing application if there's maybe some discrepancies there that you're unsure that it may not be that exception might not be granted, because if you end up living on campus, you're going to want that earliest application date as possible, so you get that number one choice.
Great. Another question that we had within the chat was about dining halls over breaks. So I know that you said that there was a process to request to live in the residence halls over breaks. Are there special hours for the dining halls as well that those students who might be staying in the dorm should be aware of?
Yeah, so they will get posted during Thanksgiving and spring break. There will be some modified hours for our dining halls. There might only be one open. They haven't posted it for what it's going to look like for this Thanksgiving break, but every student will know what those hours are. But when it comes to Christmas break, winter break, there aren't any dining hall services if you do decide to stay on campus.
Awesome. Another question that we got quite a few times, which we always do. I've been now through 2 of these living on campus webinars. I'm not surprised that this is another question that we had. It's about pets in the dorms. If you allow smaller pets, what's the requirement for those? And then we had another question more about like emotional support animals or service animals. So can you maybe touch on both of those?
Yeah. So we do allow emotional support and service animals. Again, you got to go through the process of with our Office of Disability Services to get that approved. But then we don't allow pets outside of that.
Awesome. So if a student has a pet that's in maybe a terrarium, like a reptile or a spider was the one that we got a lot of questions about last year. So are those allowed in the dorms?
Those would not be allowed in the dorms, no.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it. We also have a question about living on campus after your freshman year. When typically would those students apply for housing, and when would they get notified whether or not there was a spot for them on campus?
Yeah. So typically, as students come, in their sophomore year and above, there's going to be that priority housing deadline for our returning students, which takes place in the spring. We don't have an exact date for that just yet for this year or going into next year, but there's an opportunity for them to go in, apply for that, and even self-select a room. Is how we did it last year, and then they'll be notified right away as soon as that takes place. It's a pretty quick process, as again, there's a limited number of halls or sophomore and above options on campus, but I mean, we have been able to house all of our students that have applied for housing in the past few years.
Awesome. Can you describe what typically appliance-wise is allowed or prohibited within a dorm room?
Yeah, so let's start with the allowed. You're able to have a mini fridge. The exact square footage or cubic inches, excuse me, is going to be on our website. You can have a microwave, right? Basically anything with an open coil or hot plate, like those are the things we can't have, right? We can't have hot plates. We can't have I'm trying to think. Even air fryers, those bigger appliances like that, we can't have. But you can have your Keurig in there if you want, or if you'd like a full coffee pot, you can have that in there. But I would say that most of our students stick to having that fridge and microwave, and really keeping it at that.
Perfect. Another question that we had was more about the competitiveness of the housing application. Can you explain a little bit more what first come, first serve basis means and how likely students are to get their top choice of dorm if they wait a little while to fill out the housing application?
Yeah, it is. I would explain it as the sooner you apply, the more likely you have of getting that number one choice, right? The very first person that applies and submits that application is going to get that first housing assignment and roll through those, so on and so forth, right? So, from our most popular halls, like I said in the presentation, Yellowstone, I think, is still our most popular hall, even above our newest hall in Highlight. And I would say if you decide to wait a little bit, it's probably a high potential that you're not going to get into Yellowstone, right? And that's okay. I would say the majority of our students don't live in Yellowstone, but they still have a really great experience here on campus, whether it's in Roski, it's in Langford, and a lot of that. I always encourage students, take some ownership of the experience that you're going to have here on campus, right? And make sure that you be intentional about getting connected on campus, and build those relationships, and be willing to put yourself in those situations to help make that freshman year a success.
Awesome. And another question, if students are assigned a random roommate and they start to live together and maybe are just really butting heads, they cannot comfortably live with each other, what is that process like to be able to maybe change your dorm room?
Yeah, first thing first, we're going to encourage you to reach out to your RA, or hope you reach out to your RA or community director and sit down and kind of, they're going to ask you some questions on what's going on. Once they have an understanding of what's going on, they're probably going to ask you, have you had that conversation with your roommate, and kind of chatted through that? And oftentimes the answer is no, as that can be pretty uncomfortable. So we're going to help you do that. We want to make sure that our students are growing and learning in every aspect of who they are, and part of that is learning to live and work with people and be around people that maybe are different from you, right? And so we're gonna maybe mediate a conversation between the two roommates, but we're not going to leave you in a bad situation, right? If it's clear that everything's been done, or these two just don't work well together, we're going to make sure that we put you in a new spot that helps a little bit more with success, right? If we have the two biggest things, I'm a super clean person, my roommate's super dirty, or I wake up early and my roommate is always playing video games until 3 o'clock in the morning and I can't get any sleep, right? Those ones are tough because it's not that they're really having anything that they're really disagreeing on, but lifestyles are, scheduling is just a little different, right? If someone has 8 a.m.s 5 days a week, but a roommate is staying up till 3, it's tough to make sure you're rested as you go into the next day. So we're going to work with you. We're not going to leave you to be there, and we're certainly not going to let you go through it alone. We're here to support you, and every single one of our RAs and community directors will do the same.
Perfect. Thank you. The one last question that we have for you is there anywhere online that students would be able to get a full description of each dorm hall, maybe some pictures of each of them, so that if they're not visiting campus, if they're not going to be able to see those dorms, that they might be able to then decide on their dorms online instead?
Yeah, certainly. Again, if you go to that montana.edu/housing, if not all of our rooms have the 360-degree camera that you can move around and kind of do that walkthrough and pictures and dimensions of each hall. To give you an idea of what it's going to look like in the room, how the rooms are typically set up. And most of our students loft their beds to create more room. But yes, definitely options and pictures on there to kind of look at.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Zach, so much for co-hosting this webinar with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for answering all of our questions. For everyone who has attended, thank you so much for attending. We really appreciate it. If you missed out on any part of this webinar or you're hoping to get a copy of it later, we are recording this and we're going to be uploading it not only to our YouTube, but also to our website. Anyone who registered for this webinar should be receiving an email tomorrow as well that has the link to the webinar recording in it. If you have any further questions, you can always contact housing or admissions, and we would be happy to help you out with that. Thank you guys again so much for attending, and go Cats!
Thank you.